Welcome back to the Straw Hat Duo. My name's Charlie. Let's get into One Piece Chapter 1051, The Shogun of Wano, Kozuki Momonosuke. So, this chapter starts out with Germa 66's Cold-Blooded Voyage, Volume 13, as the cover page story, and it's Germa escapes. All the Germa siblings are walking away from a giant explosion, seeming to have escaped. Good for them. The way this chapter starts out is Momo kind of starting into his speech, but we're going to start somewhere a little bit different so that I don't have to interrupt the speech a whole lot. So, in this chapter, we get some information on Otama. So, first of all, we learn that her devil fruit, or in her eyes, her jutsu, only lasts a month. So, one moon cycle. Seems like the time span in One Piece revolves around the moon. Every moon cycle, it is 1 month. A little interesting tidbit there. She says that the animals normally go back to normal afterwards, but some stay tame. I'm sure they get to choose what they like best. She's explaining that to the Straw Hats because they're kind of wondering, hey, what's going to happen to the beast pirates that were pretty much enslaved by your fruit? And he explains all that to them. And then Speed comes up, and Speed goes, Master, I want to stay by your side forever. I'm happy like this. Otama's like, I'm so happy, Horcella-chan. I'd love it if you stayed with me, but not as my servant. I'd rather think of you as a mother. And this shocks Nami. Nami's just like, what? And Horcella, or Speed, she just starts crying. Of course, shocked as well. Then they go back to watching Momo's speech, which is put on all across the country. When Momo sees the grown-up version of Momo, which we do get revealed in this, she kind of has a flashback, and she goes, Momo-kun? And then flashes back to when she was a bit younger. Doesn't say how old she is. So she sees a bunch of people in a mine working. And a narrator says 4 more factory workers died today. It may be our time to go tomorrow. And it implies that Momo's parents are going to have to go to work in the mine. And you see them in another room talking. They're like, who should tell Otama? She has to know. Then it flashes forward just a little bit to Otama sitting there as a little girl just with a sad face crying. Somebody else says to Otama, it says, Otama-chan, this will be difficult to hear, but your mother and father are, and then it trails off. And then you see grave markers and her sitting there with the dog as a little girl. And she says, Mommy, Daddy, please rest easy. I'm gonna be okay. And then it flashes forward just a little bit more, and she's going through town making hats and trying to sell them. And she's like, hats for sale, get your hats here. Does anybody need a hand-woven hat? And you see people walking around and they're like, sorry, we have no money to spare. And the guy who says that is actually holding like a barrel lid over his head to block the rain. And she continues, woven hats for sale. And then she kind of goes back to her house and says, sorry, Komochio. Yeah, the dog. I'm terrible at names. She says, sorry, nobody bought any today. And it implies that his stomach growls. And then somebody comes up to her and says, 1 hat, please, holding out some money. She looks at him and says, wow, you're a Tengu. And it's Tengu-san, which a Tengu. That implies that that's a title. I wonder what his real name is. I don't know if we found that out. But she's surprised at him. And he goes, you are an orphan, I take it? Please do not give in. It'll only be a few more years. Soon the Kozuki clan's mighty warriors will make their return, and when that day comes, we'll finally be rid of those demonic Oni. They will no longer poison this land. And she kind of looks at her with her eyes kind of tearing up, and she goes, Kozuki? And trails off. And then she's like, it looks like she forces a smile and says, is that really true? Then I'll keep going. I'll be okay. Then it snaps out of the flashback, and this is where it seems like everything kind of just hits Otama all at once, and she grasps onto Nami and just starts crying. And then she kind of has a thought process of when she first met Luffy, when he gave her food, and he said, don't celebrate like this is special, Tama. By the time we leave this country, it'll be a peaceful place where you can eat as much as you want every single day. And then it goes back to the speech. So another thing that we get in this is the interaction between Yamato and the Straw Hat crew that are awake. So as the broadcast starts around the country, Momo's starting to talk, Yamato meets up with the Straw Hats. They're all shocked. One of them's like, what do you mean you're Kaido's son? So this war isn't over yet? And Brook has his sword out. Frankie's all ready to fight. Sanji's running forward. And Yamato's like, hold on. Hold on. I'm not your enemy. In fact, I've been following your exploits in the news for ages. By the way, I knew your crew was made up of a lot of weird-looking people, but meeting you all in the flesh is still quite a shock. And somebody's like, you're one to talk with those horns. And Sanji's running forward like, Kaido's? And then Yamato kind of cuts him off with a big smile on her face, goes, anyway, I'll be sailing with you from now on. I go by Kazuki Oden, but you can call me Yamato. Nice to meet you. And all of them are shocked. Nami and Usopp just kind of look like they're blown away by the news. Frankie just kind of looks skeptical. Brook and Sanji are just, hearts floating over them. And Frankie's like, you're joining our crew? Brook, he's like, yo, I approve. And Sanji replies, not as much as me. And Robin's in the background just kind of sitting there laughing. She's like, how amusing. But she seems on board with it. Then we see Jinbei. He said, we'll need to get confirmation from the captain before I'll be convinced. And Yamato said, yeah, that's fair enough. This is the first time you met me. So, and we see Luffy and Chopper. Luffy is being all bandaged up. He's got an IV and a blood pack. And Chopper kind of looks concerned but not scared. So either his condition is very, very serious to the point where Chopper's antics aren't playing a role in this, or he's stable. We also see Zoro there, who also appears to be bandaged up and laying there unconscious. And we see, the mink doctor in the background. Then somebody's like, so is Luffy gonna be okay? His battle was so intense, and that form of his. And that's what's making me think it's Yamato saying this. And then Yamato notices some of the beast pirates start to run off. She's like, hey, who said you could run off? Young master, please, we don't want to be slaves like the others. Then we see Jinbei looking. He's like, well, this one doesn't seem like an enemy at any rate. And then we see Hamlet, some of the other beast pirates. Quit whining and stay put. Usopp's like, that reminds me, what's going to happen to these guys? And that's when Otama explains how her power works. So now that we got that stuff all out of the way, let's go back to the beginning of the chapter. And in the beginning of the chapter, we see all the citizens trying to run away from the dragon that just transformed. People are like, wait, there's no need to flee. It seems that dragon really wasn't Kaido. And then somebody else is like, really? So there are two dragons? Something is happening in front of the castle. How can Komurasaki be here? Boss Koshiro, what in the world's going on? And then we see Kinemon's shadow from the background speaking to them. You two sure have made a name for yourself. Now I wonder if the rest of us will be as recognizable to them. And then we see the citizens just shocked as Kinemon jumps out of the smoke or emerges out of the smoke. He has this face that looks like he's in a lot of pain. And the crowd's like, Kinemon, Dono? But how? I thought he burned with Oden Castle that day, 20 years ago. But he's in front of our eyes. Is this a dream? Wait, have we already passed on? Are we dead? Is this the next life? But I don't remember dying. And then they're like, it doesn't matter if this is reality or a fantasy. Either way, I think we're about to see something monumental. And as they say that, the frog scabbard steps out. I'm blanking on names today. And then they start to broadcast all over Wano and all the different cities and towns. And then the dog mink steps out. Then we see Raizo, the ninja girl that aged Momo up. We see, Garfield with a cat gun. I'm completely blanking on most of these names today, I'm not gonna lie. I should have written them down, but... And then we see Kiku, who is being held up by, I'm just gonna call him Garfield now. I don't need to learn people's names, I just forget them anyway, so... And then there's shouting in the town, and they're like, there's no doubt about it! It's the Red Scabbards! They've been assumed dead for 20 years! Toki-sama's prophecy came true! Crowd starts cheering, crying. Then we get views from Ringo, Akuma, and Kibi. They're all, is something happening in the capital? Is this about the earthquake? I thought the village would shake apart. And we see Curry and Udon, and in Curry, they're like, head back to Bakura Town. They're broadcasting something from the capital. And Udon, the prison warden dude, one of the guys there, is like, this isn't a time just to stand around and watch. And then we see Ibitsu Town. They're all laughing. They're like, and then they're like, what's all this fuss about? It's a scroll transponder snail from the flower capital. And that's when the Straw Hats get to see the broadcast. Then we hear Momo's voice. Well, obviously I don't hear it. It's written down here. But the town hears Momo's voice. And he says, it has been 20 long years since my father died. And the townspeople are like, father? Don't tell me. Momo continues, you have all done exceptionally well to survive this protracted winter. The freedoms of the Fire Festival shall not end tonight. Starting tomorrow, you will all be able to live as you wish. And then they're like, what? But Orochi? He cuts him off. He's like, you may drink as much as you please. You will no longer be charged for clean water. The toxic factories that have ravished our lands will be abolished. Slavery will cease to exist in Wano from this day forward. This is where we get the flashback of Otama's, and then we go back to Momo, and he says, Orochi's tyrannical regime and menace of Kaido, I didn't think that'd be such a hard sentence to say, and the menace of Kaido are gone for good. I met powerful and passionate friends on my voyage, and together our ninja, pirate, mink, samurai alliance raided Onigashima. Kaido, Orochi, and the beast pirates, the monsters that have kept you living in fear, have all been vanquished, and this shocks everybody. They're like, is he serious? They were beaten? That awful Orochi is gone? Then we see Kid, and he's like, our alliance? Then we see Law and Beppo and Carrot. We see all of them kind of watching on. Carrot is happy. Law and Beppo obviously seem serious. That's, what they do. Momo continues, we will never forget those heroes who paved the way to make this possible. And then he kind of trails off for a minute. He's like, he whispers. You see like his shadowy form shaking, trembling. He's like, psst, Kinemon, now what? I'm not sure what to say next. And Kinemon just kind of looks at him, smiles, and says, as they say, fake it till you make it. Momo's just kind of shocked at this. He's like, Then he kind of takes a big sniff in, it looks, with a determined look on his face. And he has a small flashback to when Luffy kind of scolded him a little bit. Flashes back to when Luffy was like, what are you, Momo? Just a figurehead? Does anything in this world still seem to scare you? We see him kind of take a beat to think. And he goes, my name was given to me by my father. It means second to none. I swear to live up to that by restoring this country's barren lands to the paradise they once were. I'll need you to lend me your strength. I have transcended the last 20 years to save this land. From this moment on, Wano will be led by me, Kozuki Momonosuke, all of the scabbards, including Hiyori. They're all crying. Then we see Momo thinking to himself, Mother, I will keep my promise. Father, I will continue along the path you started. We hear the town kind of cry out, Momonosuke-sama. I'm pretty sure this is Momo talking, and it zooms out to the flower capital, and it says, the true shogun has returned. My deepest apologies for the delay. Momonosuke-sama. Then we get kind of a narrator overlay, what would be kind of like an end of a series type talk. Obviously, this is closer to an end of the arc type talk. The narrator comes over and says, Sakura petals dance in a future sky where warriors can finally rest their blades. A man, 8 years of age, surveys their progress as they drift into the night air of a renowned land of samurai. He may lack physical strength, but he compensates with his devotion and boundless compassion. This man will one day be known far and wide as one of Wano's greatest leaders. We have just bore the witness to the birth of the great shogun, Kozuki Momonosuke. And the chapter ends off with Momonosuke and all of the scabbards walking over a bridge into the flower capital, and they're all wearing capes with the Kozuki clan crest on their back. We see it a little bit before that, a little picture of Hiyori doing the pouting face as she's like trying to cry, and they finally get a reunion, Momo and Hiyori, and they hug. We see Sanji, Yamato, Nami, and Otama all happy and grinning. That's the end of the chapter. Definitely a very climactic chapter. Very heavy speech at the end there. There is no break next week, which is great, except for one thing. Next weekend, I will be out of town. I will not have my computer. I will not have, any way of doing any decent recording. We will definitely try to get a recording out. It may be just, completely unedited because Shayna, who has been doing all the editing for the videos, by the way, she will be getting back into the videos here soon. We haven't had too many video concepts ready, and she's been more focused on trying to catch up. She's pretty much at the end of Water 7. She may do a video on that, her thoughts on Water 7, and then we're also still going to do the video on the fight between Luffy and Usopp. So that will be coming in the future, just take some time. But back to what I was saying. We aren't going to have access to her computer for the editing, my computer for the recording and creating process. We're going to get something out. I will forewarn you, I won't have this. I'll probably be recording on phone, microphone, or I have some earbuds that I could record on. So it may not be the best sound quality, but we will get something out for you. I'm looking forward to the next chapter. I'm very curious on where we're going to go. I could see us flash forwarding a couple days to when Luffy and Zoro wake up. Yeah, let me know what you think is going to happen in the next chapter. Let me know what you thought about this chapter. When you read it, was it a tearjerker for you? Because this was a super emotional chapter for Wano in general and Otama specifically. The backstory of a kid is already hard to do, especially when it's as tragic as that. So, yeah, let me know what you thought, and we'll see you in the next one.